Ladies and gentlemen, welcome at this live virtual event. We are broadcasting live from our studio in Antwerp, and we're also connected with the studio in Houston, so it's already transatlantic. I would like to say good morning, Houston, because it's 8 a.m. where you are, and good afternoon, Antwerp, because it's 3 p.m. where we are. So it's really a big difference, and it's also the same. So welcome everyone at this live event, Houston and Antwerp, powering the Cleantech revolution. Ladies and gentlemen, you have already discovered the chat box, which is really nice. And I'm just going to check where people are from. I have people from cloudy Antwerp. I have people from rainy Houston, people from LA. I also have someone from Palo Alto. I don't know where that is. Then I have someone from Chicago. I have Martin from the Czech Republic. Wow, I don't know any Czech language, but welcome. Good day to all of you, and I would like to invite you all to go to the chat box right now and to welcome each other. It would be very nice to see all the people from the US welcoming the people from Europe, and vice versa, the people from Europe sending messages to all of you in America. So here you go. Hello from Madrid. New York is here, Laura. Thank you very much. New York is, well, Antwerp is here and New York is here too. Wonderful. Sunny Montreal. Everyone is bragging about the weather. It's also sunny in Antwerp. So even if it's not sunny, I'm going to tell you that it's very sunny in Antwerp and very hot. Welcome from Houston, says Alison. Good morning from the Netherlands. And Willie is already mentioning his mail address, so you can send Willie any mails you want. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to send in a message, do that via the chat box. That's the medium you need. If you have a question, then go to the questions tab. And the questions tab, there your question will be treated during the show, or if we don't find the answer immediately, if your question, well, requires a bit of research, then we will get back to you via mail. And Willie, we already have your mail, so that's already fine. If you have a technical issue, you can also mention that in the chat box. You can say like, I have no sound, or the image is not really fluent. If you really have a technical issue, there's on the bottom left side of your screen, normally there's a help button. And there, if you press that one, someone from Livestorm will be immediately at your help and will be immediately there to assist you. So there you go. We're ready to officially start, ladies and gentlemen. Houston and Antwerp, they are the world's two major petrochemical clusters. And it won't surprise you that both set energy transition and the transition to a circular economy at the top of their priority list. Together with the industry, efforts will be made to reduce CO2 emissions and the transition to alternative energy sources. And this through ambitious transition projects, such as regenerating renewable energy, using residual heat, and of course, importing, storing and converting hydrogen into sustainable building blocks for the chemical sector. Both Houston and Antwerp are the ideal location to set up new cross-border collaboration projects for these innovative clean tech projects. And during this two-day event, because this is only day one, there's also a day two for which you can still register. You can do that on the website. And during this two-day event, you will learn all about the clean tech revolution in Houston and in Antwerp by people from the industry itself. Also, you will learn about investment opportunities in both regions. And on day two, which is also truly inspiring, you will get more insights on already successful startups and scale-ups. So if you want to register for day two, go ahead. At the end of the show, we will show you the link, and then you can still register for the second day, which is at the same time tomorrow at the same venue. So, well, there you go. It's really easy. Ladies and gentlemen, the official start of today's event will be given by a number of very special people. A number of people who really want to welcome you at this live and virtual event. And these are really the big names. We have Jean-Arthur Régibaud, which is the ambassador of Belgium to the United States. We have Bart de Wever, who is the mayor of the city of Antwerp. And we have Sylvester Turner, who is the mayor of the city of Houston. Let's have a look at what they have to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. As Belgium's ambassador to the United States, I am delighted to join you at this virtual conference. As we are turning the corner in the pandemic, I am looking forward to visiting the great city of Houston in person as soon as possible. Houston is the largest city in Texas, the second largest economy in the US, the largest economy in the world. Belgium, on the other side, is about the size of Maryland, with 11 million people. But we are among the 20 top export countries in the world. The economic ties between our two countries are impressive. Belgium is the 12th foreign investor in the US with a value of $71 billion. Belgium is America's 11th export market. Container traffic between the port of Antwerp and the US has doubled over the last 10 years. These numbers should be no surprise. Belgium is in the heart of Europe. It is strategically located at the crossroad of major consumer markets and serves as a key logistic hub. Belgium is home to NATO and to the institutions of the European Union, and it hosts the port of Antwerp, which, as you may know, is the second largest in Europe. The chemical industry is the cornerstone of our trade relations. Chemicals count for 36% of US export to Belgium and 60% of imports. These percentages illustrate the critical importance of the link between the Port of Houston and the Port of Antwerp, the two largest petrochemical clusters in the world. In 2020, 1 out of every 4 tons shipped between Antwerp and the United States was handled in Houston. Houston and Antwerp signed a Memorandum of Understanding in 2014. Today, this collaboration makes even more sense after the recent merger between the two main ports of Belgium, Antwerp and Zeebrugge. The merger combines the traditional role of the chemical industry in Antwerp with the importance of liquefied natural gas imports in Zeebrugge, both of interest to Houston. I'm glad to see the ambitions go even further. The Port of Antwerp-Zeebrugge is positioning itself as the energy port of the future, and it has found a natural partner in Houston. In the next 2 days, you will learn about the opportunities that exist in the clean energy in both Houston and Belgium. Key issues like carbon capture and storage and the creation of a green hydrogen economy are on the agenda. I'm delighted to see 2 key players in the Belgian-American relationship to take the lead on clean energy. Thank you and have a great day.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a pleasure to talk to you all today. Online, unfortunately, because for now that is the only option available to us. I would like to take this opportunity to greet my distinguished and respected colleague, Sylvester Turner, the Mayor of Houston. Soon, the scourge of COVID-19 will be no longer dominating our lives the way it has done for over a year now. This will be another victory for science, technology, and the belief that humans can take control to some extent to make life better for all. We will rediscover the freedom that we have taken for granted, and it will taste so sweet. We have endured lockdowns and endless limitations, but we will be liberated by working vaccines, chemicals created by the world's brightest minds through international collaboration. Unfortunately, scaremongers and pessimists have influenced people's perception of the wonderful world of chemicals and its many thousands of applications in our safe and comfortable lives. In doing so, they have unsettled people's trust in the future and in human progress. They have persuaded young people that progress is bad and that it is terrible. We need to reverse this trend. I hope that this online event is a step in the right direction. Because no, the world will not end next month or in 12 years. Humans are living longer than ever, healthier than ever. The air is cleaner than before. Child mortality rates and poverty are decreasing. More teenagers are in school than ever before. The contribution of energy and chemical companies to this positive evolution, or revolution even, should not be underestimated. That is also why we must make every effort to encourage young people to go for scientific degrees, training and jobs. The careers that can make a difference can be found there. We should all be pleased about the tremendous amount of enthusiasm and interest that has been generated both in Antwerp, Flanders and in Houston, Texas and in the United States for Flanders and Houston powering the Cleantech revolution. Because this means that society as a whole and universities, businesses and institutions are ready to make a great leap forward on the path to the technology, energy and economy of the 21st century and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, Houston and Antwerp are known the world over. Both our cities, their world ports and their chemical clusters indicate the direction in which our economy, technology, science are moving, shaping the future of our children and our grandchildren. The joint and widely shared responsibility that we have taken on forces us to step up our efforts, to jointly develop the future of chemistry and contribute to the energy transition that is already going on, while remaining optimistic about the future and placing our trust in technology. The future of chemistry will be circular, sustainable and clean. The future of chemistry will be one of the most important stepping stones for making the energy transition a global success and for curbing and fixing climate change. The future of chemistry and technology will be green. Ladies and gentlemen, like Houston, Antwerp mobilizes all the innovative forces that can help us to implement and achieve these ambitions in collaboration with Flanders Investment and Trade and the Port of Antwerp. It is vital that the stakeholders who contribute to and build our city get off their islands and work together towards the same goals. The business community, city council, universities, and tens of thousands of skilled hands that keep our port running form a united front, sharing the same ambitions and the responsibilities that come with this. Antwerp has a climate plan that is tailored to the city and its port. Our ambition is to turn Antwerp's port into a climate-neutral logistics hub. We attract young and ambitious startups. Many of them focus on health, medicine, mobility and information technology. Ambitious and inspired young academics meet with business leaders who are willing to take the leap and invest in their startups. Blue Gate Antwerp is all about innovation and sustainability. Ladies and gentlemen, if Houston and Antwerp join our forces, experience, know-how, economic, intellectual and creative talents, we will have proven our cities, our regions and our people a big service. I wish everyone who is participating in Flanders and Houston powering the Cleantech revolution an inspiring and fruitful two-day conference. I thank all the people in my home city of Antwerp and the people in Houston who have gone to every length in the preparation and logistics of this unique online event to ensure that it is a success. I hope that we will also have the opportunity to meet face-to-face, both in Houston and in Antwerp. You are more than welcome.
This is Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner. It is my pleasure to welcome you to these 2 days of discussions on powering our clean tech revolution between the city of Houston and the city of Antwerp. And I am happy to be joined by our good friends from both cities, including the Mayor of Antwerp, the Belgian Ambassador to the United States, and the Minister-President of Flanders. Houston is the energy capital of the world, and together with Antwerp, we have two of the world's largest petrochemical clusters. As the Chair of Climate Mayors, Chairman of the Resilient Cities Network, and Secretary General of the World Energy City Partnership, Houston is committed to the energy transition, to come up with innovative ways to reduce emissions and accelerate the transition to alternative energy resources. In Houston, we have set a strong example of how to combat climate change and lower emissions. Since 2005, the city has reduced municipal emissions by 40%. The city of Houston uses 100% renewable energy, more than any other city in the United States. The Houston Climate Action Plan, released 1 year ago, calls for creating 50 new Energy 2.0 companies in Houston by 2025. And thanks to groups like Rice University's Carbon Hub and Clean Energy Accelerator, the University of Houston Carbon Management Program, the ION Smart and Resilient Cities Incubator, Houston Exponential and Greentown Labs Houston, we are well on our way to reach that goal. Innovation must remain at the forefront of our energy transition efforts. But to accomplish our goals, We need to continue cooperation with both industry and our international partners, and we know we have a great partner in Antwerp. I look forward to listening to these next 2 days of conversation on the future of our energy industry, and I thank you all for joining in these discussions.
Thank you very much, Sylvester Turner. Thank you very much, Bart de Wever. And thank you very much, Jean-Arthur Regibaud, for those wonderful and kind words. In the meantime, I have learned 2 things, ladies and gentlemen. I have learned that in Czech, they say Dobrý den. So thank you very much, Martin. Dobrý den. That means hello to everyone. And then I also learned that Palo Alto is in Silicon Valley. It's in the San Francisco Bay Area. Thank you, Ralph, for informing me on that. I learned some things. Well, if you look at the map of Europe, maybe you can learn something too. If you look at the map of Europe, in the center, there's this little region called Flanders. And in the center of this little region called Flanders is the port of Antwerp. And because this is the beating heart of this Flanders region, our minister-president of the Flanders region, our minister-president of the government of Flanders, Mr. Jan Jambon, would also like to welcome you. Let's have a look.
Good morning to the US and good afternoon to Belgium and Europe. From Flanders, the northern region of Belgium, and home to beautiful cities like Antwerp, Bruges and Ghent. My name is Jan Jambon and I am the Minister President of Flanders. I'm very happy to see that we are joining forces with Houston, the energy capital of the world, regarding circular economy and clean technologies. Both Houston and Flanders are making sustainability their core mission and already tangible in many aspects. Collaboration and innovation are key. Let's be clear, if we want to tackle the climate challenge, collaboration between government and industry is of paramount importance. Flanders has a thriving clean tech sector and is home to more than 1,000 actors in circular economy. We host the largest chemical cluster in the world and Europe's largest biorefinery. Flanders is a small and densely populated area. The proximity of industry to metropolitan areas has made that Flanders has overcome many environmental and ecological challenges. As such, Flanders finds itself in pole position for developing new, innovative, clean technological solutions. No efforts should be spared in the innovation and deployment of new energy solutions. Countering climate change requires a sustained global commitment for a clean energy economy. Together with the industry, efforts need to be made to reduce CO2 emissions and the transition to alternative energy sources through ambitious transition projects, such as generating renewable energy, using residual heat, and importing, storing and converting hydrogen into sustainable building blocks for the chemical and energy sector. Flanders has a unique industrial ecosystem in which innovation in climate technology can thrive, an established network of larger companies with a proven track record linked to a fast-growing community of startups and scale-ups. The ports and its industrial and chemical clusters play an important role in the energy transition, CO2 reduction and the transition towards a more circular economy, providing an ideal testing ground for implementation of new technologies. As an important part of the post-COVID recovery plan, the government of Flanders will invest a lot in both green and digital transformation as key transitions for the future. With innovation support and a unique package of R&D incentives, we support companies, allowing them to accelerate their business. Research and academic education constitute an important basis for the innovation chain. Flanders offers dedicated, highly specific education and training programs to to foster promising talent in the field of cleantech. Flemish universities such as Antwerp, Leuven and Ghent and research institutes like IMEC are very successful and are part of several inter-university and international networks. Do know that sustainable resources, materials and chemistry is one of the key domains of our foreign economic policy to accelerate the competitiveness of our region. We want to build international relations with foreign ecosystems, link companies, clusters and research centers to join efforts and find creative solutions for a world in transition. Today's event is a perfect example of that. Recently, as part of this strategy, we enlarged our foreign network of science and technology counselors, several of them focusing on climate technology based in Singapore, India, Scandinavia and also in the US. Flanders and the US have a long history of economic collaboration, and so have Houston and Antwerp as the largest petrochemical clusters of the US and Europe. Now that the US is re-entering the climate tech arena and Houston also focusing on a green action plan, we most certainly have a bright future together. Together we can tackle new challenges, be pioneers and make sure that we power the climate tech transition. It will not only benefit climate change, but it will also enhance productivity and efficiency, reduce costs, energy consumption, resources and waste, show huge respect for nature and mankind. I sincerely hope that you will enjoy this two-day online event and gain new insights. Flanders and Antwerp are always willing to discuss new opportunities and collaboration.
Thank you very much, Jan Jambon, for these wonderful words. Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready for the first roundtable debate. And as you know, in the chat box, you can send any message you want. If you have questions, use the questions tab. Then we will answer your question backstage, if possible, during the show, and otherwise it will be afterwards via mail. So let's get started, ladies and gentlemen. And I have to say, being born and raised in Antwerp myself, I have to tell you that I'm very proud of my city. It's a wonderful city. It's a city rich with culture. It has a leading role in the arts, in fashion, in diamonds, in chocolate, and in biscuits. And, well, there's this little detail. This studio is built in an ancient biscuit factory. And this is true. It's no lie. It's a city with, of course, the port of Antwerp, the second largest port in Europe, which plays an important role in Flanders and in the European region. And the Port of Antwerp is Belgium's largest economic engine. We want future generations to be able to enjoy the prosperity and the many jobs that the port creates. This is why we are building Europe's most sustainable port, reconciling economic, social and ecological interests. We are building a home port as a lever for a sustainable future. That means growing the port in a sustainable way, in harmony with society and with the environment in which the port operates. And this brings me seamlessly with our first roundtable debate, which is about the EU Green Deal and the investment opportunities that are maybe possible in this region. This debate will be moderated by Luc Arnouts, who has a rich history in the Port of Antwerp. He started in 1986, ladies and gentlemen, 1986, go figure, at the logistics company Groep Katoen Natie. Go look it up on Google, it's huge. He became the general manager of SGS Van Bree, who is in charge of logistics and port handling. In 2007, he joined the Antwerp Port Authority as CCO, and mid-2017, he became Director International Relations and Networks. There you go, if you talk about a moderator, this is one. I give the floor to Luc Arnouts. Enjoy.
Thank you, Olivier, for this fine introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, but even, sorry, Olivier, I have to correct you, also good evening, because we have good friends from Abu Dhabi and from Mumbai on the participants list. So welcome to the world. We appreciated, of course, the inspiring words of the speakers of honor we heard before, gentlemen, here around the table, but now the real work starts. We kick off with the first roundtable, EU Green Deal and investment opportunities in cleantech, which no doubt is very relevant when aiming for a cleantech revolution. I'm happy to introduce three prominent and esteemed speakers here today. Let me start with Bart Biebuyck, Executive Director, Fuel Cells and Hydrogen Joint Undertaking. I'm going to read, otherwise I might be making a mistake, Bart. So, Fuel Cells and Hydrogen Joint Undertaking is a unique public-private partnership supporting research, technological development and demonstration activities in fuel cell and hydrogen energy technologies in Europe. And I understand there are three members, the European Commission, Hydrogen Europe and Hydrogen Europe Research, but I'm sure you'll tell us more about that in the course of the panel. A demonstrated history of working in the research industry. A warm welcome to the panel, Bart.
Thank you very much.
Wouter de Geest, Chairman of VOCA, the Flanders Industry and Commerce Association, but also a rich career, former CEO of BASF Antwerp, and Wouter still remains on the board of BASF Antwerp today. For many years, you were also chairman of Essentia, the Belgian sector federation of the chemical industry. So, Wouter, we can say we have a true chemical specialist here around the table. You today will be representing the industry and its stakeholders. Also, a warm welcome. And last but not least, Jacques van der Meijeren, not least, he's my boss, so, CEO of the Port of Antwerp since 2017, but also before that, a long career in the energy sector. Amongst different positions, you became member of the executive committee of the system operator Elia, chairman in 2004 and CEO in 2012. Jacques, with your background in the energy industry, I'm sure the energy transition is an important topic for you, and we are happy you brought this experience and your vision to the Port of Antwerp and today to this panel. Happy to have you with us today.
Good morning.
As well.
Thank you.
We will discuss three topics in the course of the next half hour. So for sure we will not be able to touch upon everything, but let's see where we get. Three topics: energy transition, EU Green Deal and investment opportunities. And for each of the topics, I would like to get the three viewpoints here around the table. Bart, we hope you will bring us the European perspective, Wouter, the industry perspective, and Jacques, of course, the port perspective on the three subjects. So let's start with the first topic. Energy transition, what are the challenges regarding energy transition? And Bart, first question to you. We see that the EU basically has all the needed assets. I mean, we have policy goals, we have an innovation ecosystem, we have business leaders, we have skilled workers, we have financing instruments, as far as I understand. So EU has all these needed assets to lead the global clean energy transition race. What are, in your view, the biggest challenges regarding this transition?
Thank you, Luc, for the question. I see four big challenges. And the first challenge is to speed up really the building of the renewable energy sources. I mean, solar panels, wind, we know them all very well, because we have set those very strong ambitions, and we really need to speed up those building of these renewable energy sources. The second one is to reduce the greenhouse emissions faster than today. And especially today, when you look, for example, in transportation, I think we are a bit behind schedule. And so we need to catch up. One reason of that is, of course, the lack of infrastructure still. And we need to build the recharging points, refueling points for hydrogen, for example. So we really need to speed up in building those installations. The third one is, of course, the energy policy itself, because it's a shared competence between the European Commission and its member states. And each member state has, for example, a different energy mix, but also a different speed of implementation, a different socio-economical situation. And so basically the big challenge here is really aligning all those different countries to go for that one target. And the final big challenge is to create a support base in the society to buy and really invest in those new technologies.
Thank you, Bart. A very clear start of our roundtable. Wouter, industry viewpoint, energy transition and the big oil and gas majors. How are they looking at this energy transition? What are they doing?
What they are doing is that they will contribute to the solution, as industry does. Industry is not only a part of the problem. Industry has always been a very important part of the solution. And the industry as a whole is, of course, energy intensive in Flanders, and we are happy with that. But of course, we will need more energy, because in all scenarios that we developed towards a carbon neutral industry, to a carbon circular industry, we will need more energy. But of course, we will need more renewable energy. And this is a big challenge. As Bart already said, we will need to invest in all kinds, in wind, in solar, in infrastructure, and in molecules. We have to do this together. And therefore it's important that the industry always has lived in symbiosis with other sectors. And what we are doing now in the industry is to develop even more symbiosis with the energy sector, with the transportation sector, because we need this holistic approach, and this is also driven by all these major companies. Look at the policies of the companies, look where they put the money on, and you will see that these companies are driving the transition. They are not working against the transition, they are working in the transition. But still, we have to develop the right timeframes, the right priorities in order to achieve this on a way that all these companies will be competitive and will survive at the same time.
Some say that we need to speed up. You mentioned speeding up in your part. Do you feel that the industry is acting fast enough?
The industry is doing a lot to speed it up. But the industry alone cannot do this. As Bart already said, we have to develop the right system, the systematic approach. We need this holistic view on energy policy, on industrial transition policy, on climate policy. These three together, we have to develop and aligned. Aligned in goal setting, aligned in time frame setting, and aligned in supporting schemes for the investments that you have to do.
Thank you, Wouter. Jacques, a few years ago, I think ports were not immediately related to energy transition. Today we are. How can ports actively contribute to the energy transition?
Well, indeed, ports are ports, and ports are very different when you compare them in the world. You have energy ports like Rotterdam and Antwerp. We are, since many decades, energy hubs, not only for the country, but for a huge part of Europe. So when it comes to energy transition and building a new energy system for the future, and quite fast, before 2050, well, ports will play a key role, because we have, of course, we are responsible for lots of CO2 emissions, but was mentioned by Wouter and Bart, we host the main key players here, the chemical industry. They will play a role in finding solutions, and we have them all in our port platform. So we are a landlord port, of course, but also a community building port. And so one of our role is to be the lever, the one who will facilitate the whole discussion and bring people together to start concrete projects on, for instance, CCS, green hydrogen, and other things we will discuss later on. But ports will play a key role in finding solutions in the port, but also finding solutions that will be copied and exported to other places in the world.
Do you feel ports around the world in general are busy enough on energy transition?
Some for sure. Others are still struggling how to tackle this problem and how to find their role in the global chain. But in Antwerp we have a very clear vision. We want to become a green and a future-proofed digital port. So we have to play, a key role in different items, the digitalization and the energy and mobility. So it's big times for ports.
Yeah. I feel we are playing a certain front-runner's role at Port of Antwerp, but as moderator I have to stay neutral, I guess. Let's move on to the second subject, ladies and gentlemen, the EU Green Deal itself. What is this EU Green Deal and how does it help to reach the energy transition ambitions? First question to you, Bart, European perspective. Perhaps good to start by explaining a bit to the audience what this EU Green Deal is about. And perhaps you might also mention something on what hydrogen plays in this EU Green Deal.
Yeah, thank you. Well, the EU Green Deal is, of course, very important for the European Union. Yeah? Basically, the deal explains the way the European Union will tackle its climate ambitions. They have huge ambitions, and it lays down actually the entire plan how they want to reach their goals. I mean, there are two very important goals that they mentioned. First of all, Europe wants to be carbon neutral by 2050. It's a very important statement. And secondly, also by 2030, it's more closer in time, of course, they want to reduce 55% of the greenhouse gas emissions. It's a very severe target, I have to say. And then, of course, the Green Deal itself is more than only CO2 reduction. It's also about the circular economy, it's about biodiversity, it's about agriculture. So there are many, many aspects because that's all about the climate. Now, bringing it down to hydrogen, basically there are two parts in the European Green Deal that really are related to hydrogen. And first is to make sure that we have clean, reliable and affordable energy, because affordable is very, very important in this one. And secondly is also the sustainable transport. That are two objectives in the Green Deal, where I believe hydrogen can play a very important role. We did in 2019 a study about what can hydrogen delivers now to the Union. And we calculated that by 2050, up to 24% of the energy needs, the total energy needs in the Union, can be supplied through hydrogen. So that's quite substantial. And that's why also the European Union have then made their the European Hydrogen Strategy last year at the 8th of July. Basically, the role of hydrogen will be in various domains because it's a very horizontal role that hydrogen will have. I mean, hydrogen in industry, how to decarbonize, for example, the steel, how to make green steel. Hydrogen will be there. Also in the heavy duty, I mean, when we talk about shipping, aviation, rail, hydrogen will play an important role to decarbonize because there's no other alternatives. And then also, and that sometimes we forget to say that, but it's the grid balancing. We will need to balance our electricity grid, and also there hydrogen will play a very important role.
One small question on the EU Green Deal and its ambition. Is it, in your opinion, ambitious enough to reach, for instance, the 2050 climate neutrality? Are the measures foreseen ambitious enough?
Definitely, I think Europe setting which is a very industrialized continent, to be very honest, and also we're living all very close together. I believe that if we can reach in 2050 climate neutral, that would be a huge success. It's definitely a huge ambition.
I guess it explains why President Biden had a very good look at the EU Green Deal and is now using elements of it in his own Green Deal.
Yeah, I heard about a new Green Deal.
Well.
Very interesting. I'm looking forward to hear more about it.
We'll hear that in the coming day, I guess. Wouter, the EU Green Deal, how essential is it for the industry to reach this clean tech environment?
Well, look, the Green Deal, the European Green Deal, is essential for the industry. Because, to be honest, it will be the industry that brings the Green Deal to life. It is not politics that will bring Green Deal to life. It will be the companies who will bring it together with society. It will bring it to life. So therefore, the Green Deal is offering a lot of opportunities. And I'm very glad that the Green Deal recognizes the importance of innovation and recognizes the importance of the efforts that we have to do on R&D. Because a lot of technologies are still in lower technological readiness levels. So we have to develop technologies towards demonstration plants, pilot plants. These demonstration plants and pilot plants will be eligible for some support from Europe. And this is very, very important. And of course,
this is a huge opportunity for the companies and for the harbor in Antwerp, because we have this location, we have the know-how to develop this unique demonstration plants and pilot plants and technologies. Of course, it's also important because the Green Deal deals also with something as infrastructure. We will need infrastructure. We will need infrastructure for the renewable energies, how to transport them, to develop the grids. We will need logistics for making the circularity happen. We need logistics for the plastics and things like that. We will need a lot of these things to develop, and Green Deal definitely will help. And the Green Deal, I hope, will inspire, as it is inspiring other regions in the world, to go the same way. Because we as an industry, of course, we need what we call a level playing field. And this level playing field can only be there if we have green deals around the world. And if the world is joining, and the world will join, if major regions and important regions in the world, such as Antwerp and the city of and the port of Houston, are taking the lead in this transition, then maybe we will come also to let's say, level playing field so that the companies can survive and still be competitive. Huge opportunities, but still we have to say that we should be also realistic. Yesterday, the Energy Agency published what will we need if we go to the carbon neutrality in the world. Well, it's amazing. If you see, then we have to invest on a yearly basis worldwide more than $5 trillion. $5 trillion annually until 2030 on, let's say, building sustainability. Nowadays, we are investing 2 trillion. So it's a lot of effort that we have to do if we will, and I'm convinced that we can reach the ambitions, not each country, not each region, but together we can get there.
Thank you, Wouter. Very convincing. And optimistic. Jacques, ports, EU Green Deal, what does it mean for ports and for a port like Antwerp?
Well, look at the location of the port of Antwerp. We are in a part of Europe, in the heart of Europe, where you will find the biggest energy sink of Europe. You have North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany, you have the Netherlands, Belgium, and it's a main gate. Also for lots of goods, energy of course, but lots of goods coming for the world and going from Europe to the world. We are the biggest economic engine of the country, was mentioned by the Minister President and the Mayor. So this story is key for our future. It's an enormous challenge, and it's the European Green Deal is a catalyst that will enforce the energy transition. So it's a big opportunity also for the port and for the port community and for the biggest integrated chemical cluster of Europe. And we want to keep those companies here in the country because they create lots of added value for the economy and employment. They will be key drivers in the innovation. So I'm optimistic too, like Wouter, and I consider that this European Green Deal for this small country in the world is an enormous opportunity. But it will be not a walk in the park. So, and nobody can find the solution by himself. So it's a story of frontrunners bringing key players together and a trial and error. And so we will invest in things that most probably will not become a huge success, but other ones will. And, green hydrogen will be key, CCS will be key. And well, let's start, because 2050 is tomorrow. And Wouter was referring to the infrastructure that will be needed. And building infrastructure is a huge thing. It's of course a lot of money, but it's permits. It takes time, and so the clock is ticking. And our ambition is to have, for instance, that the hydrogen import coalition, because we will have to bring some energy, as we do today. We will have to bring in the country green molecules and green electrons. And it's a fantastic story for energy lovers to be part of this story. And in Belgium, we have companies like DEME, like Exmar, like Fluxys, NG, all already involved in this import coalition, so ready to play the game. But we need the level playing field, we need a regulatory framework, we need a vision on hydrogen in this country, in Europe, to be successful. So it's a complicated story, and everyone will have to play at a certain moment in time a crucial role to become all successful.
Lovely. I feel the power around this table. You see the challenges very clearly, but you also see how to get there. So I think with captains of industry like you around the table and many on behind the screen here, that we'll be able to do it. And the EU Green Deal will be pushing us and helping us, supporting us. Lovely. Let's move to the third and last subject of this roundtable, which is the investment opportunities. What opportunities for investment in clean tech do you see, and how the Green Deal can help there? Bart, again, addressing you as a first. If you have a closer look at hydrogen as an example, but you might take others if you want, what forms of encouragement are available on a European level to do these investments?
Well, especially on the hydrogen, I mentioned we have this European hydrogen strategy, so it's going even beyond a vision. And we have set a very clear goal. By 2024, we want to have 6 gigawatts of electrolyzers built in the field. And by 2030, 40 gigawatts of electrolyzers. These are goals set by the Union, and they will go for it. They want to achieve them. And they will do that together with the industry and partnering. We mentioned it already. We have to work together. That's why the European Union has launched the European Clean Hydrogen Alliance. Today, there are more than 1,000 companies in this alliance, because we calculated to reach those objectives that we have set in hydrogen, we need to invest 430 billion euro. And that has to come together, public and privately. And so what is good that in that alliance, basically it's CEOs who are there, who can make the decisions together with the commissioners, the highest level at the European Union, so that we can do it fast and quickly. And in terms of R&I, the European Union have announced that they will invest 1 billion euro from now on for the next 7 years to invest in research and innovation for hydrogen. And globally, what is also very important is to agree on a definition of hydrogen, for example. We want to make sure that for the green hydrogen that we call it, or the blue hydrogen, whatever, with CCS, in Houston, that definition is the same definition that we have here, because that will unlock the cross-border trading. And that's what we are doing now at the Union, that we make sure that globally we have one methodology to assess the CO2 footprint for each hydrogen production facility or production way.
Wouter, I presume you confirm this need for standardization or standard set goals?
Of course. Industry and in a worldwide trade system, we need standardization at a certain degree. That's very important, because otherwise we always have cross-border problems and things like that. And the investment opportunities are there. And I'm now as president of the Flemish Chambers of Commerce and Industry. I see two things. This whole thing about carbon neutrality and carbon circularity is a new engine of growth for our economy. And I see the growth in the existing companies, because the existing companies are going in transition, are putting a lot of effort and money in R&D and in developing new technologies, in developing new products for isolation, new products for the homes, new products for renovation of homes, new products for the mobility. All kinds of new products are developed, and this is good because we are growing. And it's also good because we see, and tomorrow I think we will take the opportunity to listen to a lot of startups, a lot of new companies. A lot of new companies are founded with brilliant people, with brilliant ideas, with the possibility to spread the technology around the world, to bring new growth models, new value chains. And these are huge investment opportunities. And coming back to the willingness of these companies, I take an example in Antwerp. In Antwerp, you know, the big chemical, petrochemical, and refineries. They joined forces in an alliance, never seen alliance, to bring the biggest investment on CCS and CCSU, also the CO2 capturing, storage, utilization. They join forces together with the Port Authority, together with grid operators, to bring an ecosystem for CO2, an ecosystem for the future of hydrogen. And these are the important things, and this is why I believe if we do it on a smart way, if we implement and bring Green Deal alive on a smart way, then we will reach our goals. I see a lot of investment opportunities, providing a very stable policy framework with a level playing field, and a level playing field, in my opinion, should be global.
Thank you, Wout. Okay. Again, convincing words. You mentioned Port of Antwerp as part of one of these partnerships. So, addressing you, Jacques, last question. I see our time is running out. So, how can we, as Port of Antwerp, anticipate on new investments? What can we do to be an attractive player for investments? Partnerships will be one of them, well, I guess.
Of course, partnerships and bringing the existing players together to find solutions together. Pioneering together is one of our baselines for the future. Because innovation will be key, and we as a port authority are not the drivers behind innovation. We have the existing companies, but also lots of startups, and they will come to the table tomorrow. QPinch is one beautiful example, invented here in Antwerp. Two engineers, one coming from BASF, and developing something completely new on energy efficiency, and now implementing this technology with one of the major companies here in the Port of Antwerp, Borealis. So it is happening, and that's what the Port Authority has to stimulate and facilitate, and then opening the port as a testbed for innovation and new technologies, and give some land to new investors.
How are you doing that completely?
Well, we had the former General Motors site in the heart of the Port of Antwerp, more than 88 hectares of land that we completely renewed, and we are rebuilding this, and the hope is to become the hotspot for circular economy and bringing end-of-life products to a second life, a third life, and always focusing on what is strong in the Port of Antwerp, it is the chemical industry. And so attracting new players on demos, on POCs, but also I would love to have the 1 giga electrolyzer in the Port of Antwerp. We have the land, so if someone has a good idea, a good product, a good project, contact our colleagues from the Next Gen District, because that's the name of the 100 hectares now, and you will be more than welcome to invest in Antwerp.
Dear audience, you see, never waste a good moment for some promotion. Huh? Thank you so much, Jacques, for also pinpointing that opportunity. Gentlemen, our time is up. Sorry, I think we could talk for much longer, because this has been a very inspiring exchange of thought. I really want to thank each of you for your contributions and your insights, your convincing, realistic but also optimistic words. I could repeat main things, but it would be too much. But okay, I say I will repeat, pioneering together. I think that's something wonderful for all of us to remember. The importance of the industry. They will do the transition, but more importantly, I heard they are willing to do the transition. Because you don't only need to do it, you also want to do it. So that's also great. And the Green Deal, thank you, Bart, for explaining, it's a clear lighthouse for all of us, and it will support not only the industry, but also authorities to set the right regulations and so on. So I think it's a useful instrument. It's not only an instrument, it's a big ambition, and it's a big program. We are all grateful that it exists and that it will inspire our industry, ports, and everybody related. So, gentlemen, thank you very much. And hope to see you in the coming 2 days, listening to our interesting exchanges. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us on this roundtable, and it's now for me to give the floor back to Olivier.
Thank you very much, Jacques van der Merwe, Bart Biebuyck, and Wouter de Geest. Also, thank you very much, moderator Luc Arnouts, for this wonderful first roundtable discussion. A lot of talking about investments, ladies and gentlemen. So, this event was made possible by Flanders Investment and Trade. And the CEO of Flanders Investment and Trade, Claire Tillekaerts, she also wanted to address you. She believes that international trade and foreign direct investments make the world go round by creating new jobs, facilitating the exchange of know-how, and accelerating innovative research and development. Let's have a look at what the CEO of Flanders Investment and Trade, Claire Tillekaerts, has to tell us.
Dear participants in the US and Flanders, in Houston and in Antwerp. As the CEO of Flanders Investment and Trade, the government agency for international business in Flanders, it is with great pleasure that I welcome you to this virtual event. I am delighted that even in these challenging times, we can still bring people together in a virtual space. Because, ladies and gentlemen, connection is what the future is all about. It is what our agency, Flanders Investment and Trade, stands for. Connecting Flanders-based companies, organizations, incubators and research institutes to partners worldwide, and connecting foreign-based companies with opportunities in Flanders so they can collaborate to grow their business or find solutions for common challenges. This is exactly what we want to achieve during this event. Connecting and exploring collaboration in the context of climate and energy challenges that both our regions face. This is what we have in common. Antwerp and Houston are both world-leading clusters and hubs, and we both want to keep our chemical and logistic hubs growing in a sustainable way. We are driven by the same logic and we speak the same language. We both need to evolve, embrace new technologies and make use of new developments. So, what better way is there than to collaborate and learn from each other? During today's and tomorrow's program, we will walk the talk. We are here not just to connect city to city or port to port. We will also bring our companies and their expertise to the table. After all, they are the heart of the ecosystem. You will discover that in Flanders, we have taken the steps necessary to create an environment that enables successful collaboration between stakeholders on all levels. Connecting with those companies and stakeholders means gaining access to a close-knit business and knowledge ecosystem that can accelerate your clean tech or climate tech activities. Flanders is making the transition to a green economy, is fostering a smarter and greener chemical industry, is involved in combining green hydrogen from offshore wind energy, among many other initiatives. These are some examples of developments in Flanders that match with your areas of expertise. I am convinced that there is a lot of potential for collaboration, and together we can lead the clean tech and clean energy transition. As a final remark, I'd like to emphasize the fact that the US is Flanders' most important economic partner outside Europe. Our 6 offices in New York, Los Angeles, Silicon Valley, Chicago, Atlanta, and here in Houston continue to nurture and strengthen this vital relationship. Since we strongly believe in collaboration with the US in the domain of climate tech, a Science and Technology Counselor, Ralph Moreau, was appointed for this domain and he will speak at this event tomorrow. He and our representative in Houston, Brett Hargis, are your local points of contact whenever you need more information or want to discuss further collaboration. I am very pleased to co-organize this event, and that so many partners from Flanders and Houston were willing to collaborate. So, a very special thanks to everybody who made this event possible. I wish the event great success, and I hope you find your participation both inspiring and valuable. And I hope to see you soon live. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire Tillekaart, CEO of Flanders Investment and Trade. She talked about connecting, ladies and gentlemen, and we are connecting. I can see in the chat box that you are sending messages. I can see also in the questions area that you are sending in those questions. Keep those questions coming. Whenever you have something that's on your mind, just post it, and then we will see if we can get an answer for you during the show or afterwards via mail. Now, let's really connect, ladies and gentlemen. And I think we are ready for the second roundtable debate. It's now bringing Houston and Antwerp together. Houston and Antwerp, hydrogen and carbon capturing pioneers. That hydrogen, is it green or is it blue? We will find out in a second. Moderator for this roundtable debate is Adwin Martens, founder and managing director of Waterstofnet. For those who don't know, waterstof is hydrogen in Dutch. Now, there you go. Now you have learned something. Waterstofnet is a knowledge and cooperation platform on hydrogen. There you go. And they coordinate a cluster of 85 industrial companies on hydrogen, and they're involved in 20 hydrogen projects. They're also one of the partners of the Hydrogen Import Coalition study headed by the Port of Antwerp. We are going to look closer to that hydrogen and carbon capturing together with Adwin Martens and his guests. Take it away.
Yes, thanks. Thanks for the nice introduction. And it's really my honor, good morning, good afternoon. It's really my honor to introduce this panel of real experts on the field. First, I would like to introduce Mr. Nicolas Savries. He is executive chairman of EXMAR. EXMAR company active on worldwide shipping of LNG and LPG, and also a specialist in engineering of production platforms for this. Mr. Yves Verkammen, he is Director Transformation Projects at Fluxys, being the basic of the major, the only gas operator in Belgium, with a focus on transmission, LNG terminal and storage. Then we've got in Houston Mr. Brett Perlman, and he is CEO of the Center for Houston's Future Hydrogen and Carbon Management Initiatives, and he is responsible for the hydrogen and carbon roadmaps for the area of Houston. And last but not least, we've got Daryl Wilson. He is Executive Director of the Hydrogen Council. And the Hydrogen Council is the worldwide knowledge center of hydrogen. And I know also Daryl Wilson also for several decades to be one of the pioneers of the green hydrogen industry. So welcome all of you, and let's start as soon as possible because time is limited. And in this panel, I would like to focus on two issues. First, the issue of the energy clusters, the integrated energy clusters. And the second will be about the network and the transport of this energy for these two port areas. So, to start, as known, already said several times, Houston and Antwerp are number 1 and number 2 in the integrated chemical clusters in the world. That means there's an incredible amount of hydrogen produced already now. It's consumed already now. And of course, also a lot of CO2 is emitted already now. Both ports have the ambition to make the shift from this gray hydrogen towards clean hydrogen. So cleaner hydrogen and also lower CO2 emissions. Daryl, as Executive Director of the Hydrogen Council, you have a worldwide overview of the activities on hydrogen. And the fact that those ports are really investing and researching this shift from gray hydrogen towards clean hydrogen Can you tell something about the importance that those leading clusters are putting their efforts on this? Can you say something about, is it a challenge for only technology, or is it financial, or the legislation, the permitting? And maybe a last question is, do you see a real difference between the United States approach or the European approach on this? Can you tell something about your experience and your insight on this?
Adwin, it's good to be with you again, and thank you for your question. Indeed, a lot of folks think that this hydrogen story is something brand new and is just in the beginning. But as you pointed out, hydrogen production is a well-established activity that's gone on in industry for many decades. And so we have a running start to build on here, where there's a whole background of experience and competency and skill. There is a framework of codes and standards to safely manage hydrogen, and there's a whole lot of industrial practice that now can be applied to what is new, and that's using hydrogen as a critical part of our energy system. And in fact, the industrial applications of hydrogen and the energy applications of hydrogen are complementary. And that's why I think we're seeing this activity in the Port of Antwerp and in Houston, where there's already a lot of practice and knowledge and experience with hydrogen, now building out to use hydrogen in new ways and in new applications, because indeed hydrogen can serve our energy needs for mobility, for integrating more renewable energy into our system, for storing energy, for decarbonizing hard to decarbonize sectors. And so there's a tremendous synergy between these industrial centers like the Port of Antwerp and Houston, with this new transition to a hydrogen-based energy system. And yes, there are still challenges. You asked about the financing the transition. I was with a large group of bankers and insurance companies just yesterday who are speaking about what it's going to take to finance this transition. It's a lot of money. And the historical tools around finance and risk management need to be reapplied, and there's learning that needs to happen in that sector. But the good news already is that people in those sectors are gathering and learning and participating and trying to understand how they can help. So I think there's already a lot of good momentum in those areas where we need to build up the financing capability and then the policy capability of the governments. Through the Hydrogen Energy Ministerial, lead ministers in countries all around the world are now developing strategies and targets and funding to support this transition. So we've got a great start, a running start from the industrial side, a good start in the financial community and as well with governments. The nice thing about hydrogen is really it's such a versatile solution that no matter where you go, you're going to find a hydrogen story. You're going to find that this new energy vector can contribute to our climate change goals and the transition that we need to go through. So I think Houston is a special place from the standpoint of the management of energy and all of the industrial complexes that use hydrogen. So they have a particular base and expertise that they can build on. And then similar in the Port of Antwerp with the intensity of the industrial activity and the know-how and the competencies and skills, and then as a trading interaction center, again, a tremendous platform. I'm very encouraged by these activities because they represent the ability of hydrogen to integrate many, many facets of the energy system as part of the overall energy transition. So I think great news stories and important clusters to be working on in this important story.
Yes, thanks, Daryl, for this very supporting words on the hydrogen, and of course the importance of Antwerp and Houston is already stressed, and it's a very important one. Also good to hear that there's a financial interest also from the outside world to fund all this kind of activities. Then I go to Houston, to the Port of Houston, because being the largest fossil fuel-based energy cluster in the world, it's extremely interesting to know your vision about this, because it must be a very big transition for you as a port, a leading port in the world. And a few weeks ago, I read an announcement in the newspapers that ExxonMobil will invest billions of dollars in a very large CO2 capture system and storage hub. So it must be fantastic that the Port of Houston is the place that this will happen. But of course, Brett, I think that you will have a kind of roadmap for all kind of projects focusing on cleaning this hydrogen and also cleaning reducing the CO2. Can you elaborate something on this, on your activities the coming decades maybe?
Yes, Edwin. Well, thanks for having us. And we are actually going to have an entire conference on this on July 1st. And so very interested in having our colleagues from Europe and Flanders join us for that. And more information will be coming on that shortly. Actually, some of it's on our website now. So I'll just give you a sense of where we are today. And then we'll have more opportunities to talk about this in detail. The Exxon announcement was very exciting, but it was really building on a foundation that we've been working on for many years at the center. As you know, Houston is a very large petrochemical and refining center, and therefore a very big emitter of CO2. In fact, we emit 52 million tons of CO2 annually. And so the challenge of sequestering all that CO2 is one of the big challenges we have in terms of addressing our GHG emissions. And so the Center for Houston's Future had been working on this plan that was building on a roadmap that the National Petroleum Council had put out several years ago to regionalize that. And what we found is that hydrogen is really the place that you start in terms of the low-hanging fruit for CCUS, because it is the easiest source of CO2 to sequester. It's the cheapest source of sequestration, and actually it starts to give you this new product called blue hydrogen. And so it actually creates these new applications that we can start using, whether it's in transport or in energy storage or perhaps other applications. And so I think what the Exxon announcement did is it started to catalyze the work that we had been doing at the Center for Houston's Future, that others had been doing, about really what the opportunity is, not only to address our industrial emissions in the Houston region, but also to start to create these new industries around hydrogen. And we at the center are now starting to look at what those applications might be. And we believe the first one will probably be in transport, but we also believe that we will start to see very quickly other applications, and I guess we'll talk about these in a second. Certainly in energy storage, and ultimately the creation of an export industry from the Gulf Coast to Europe and perhaps even to Asia. And so we think the hydrogen story is a very important one for Houston as we start to transition the world from fossil fuels to low carbon energy sources. And so that's the work we're doing at the Center for Houston's Future. And as I mentioned, we're having a conference in July 1st, and hopefully some of our colleagues from Europe will be able to join us and learn more about what we're doing. So very pleased to be here, and look forward to working with all of you on this very important topic.
Thanks, Brett, for this interesting explanation. And indeed, it matches completely with the Port of Antwerp activities, because they're also active in a consortium, Antwerp at Sea, for CO2 sequestration and reusing. There are also power-to-methanol plants, also trucks, maritime applications. So the transport, the power-to-methanol, the Antwerp at Sea, so it's really matching with your activity. So I think it would be very good to work together on this. So this is the ports of Houston and Antwerp, but of course only clusters is not a real situation in the future. We need also to have networks in the clusters, but also between the clusters. And also we have to have transport. That's also critical. And therefore we are happy to have Yves here on the table, because the Fluxys as a gas operator, a natural gas operator in Belgium, is really very active on looking at hydrogen and CO2, especially the situation in Belgium that the port of Antwerp is together with the port of Zeebrugge, and that's an LNG terminal and a chemical cluster. So it's a really very interesting place to do all kind of first projects. So I was wondering if we think about this backbone for hydrogen or CO2, how can we start this? Can we reuse pipelines from natural gas in order to avoid stranded assets? Is it a technical challenge or is it legal framework? Yves, can you tell something about your vision for this?
Yep. Thanks, Edwin. We're asking a lot of questions, so I'll try to address them one by one. So first of all, we are indeed a partner in many of these projects. Why? Because the common denominator is indeed infrastructure. And infrastructure, it has already been mentioned, is going to be key. And as Distrigas, as Fluxys, we operate more than 9,000 kilometers of pipelines in Europe. So we know how to deal with gaseous molecules. And what we have been discussing up to now is indeed how to transport, store, and even import these new types of carbon neutral molecules. And as Fluxys, indeed, we are looking into the transformation of our current infrastructure to accommodate to these new molecules. And to answer one of your questions is, indeed, we can reuse our existing infrastructure for either transporting hydrogen as a blend. Of course, there are some technical considerations that you need to consider, but basically we can blend up to 10% without having to change a lot our infrastructure. We can also, of course, transport pure hydrogen or pure CO2, but then the operating conditions will be a bit different, and we will have to change some parts of the infrastructure. But basically, we can reuse to a large extent our existing infrastructure. So when we talk about building the new infrastructure, of course, we should first of all look at how to minimize the cost for society and see what we can reuse based on the existing infrastructure. And this is indeed what we have been doing as well at Fluxys. And we have developed a kind of vision together with our partners about how a backbone, a hydrogen backbone, a CO2 backbone could look like in different stages. You have Vision 2050, because 2050 is a kind of target date. We want to become carbon neutral by 2050. But in the meantime, how do we deal with the necessary targets that we want to reach, and how can infrastructure help? And so the vision that we have developed is indeed a vision, first of all, supporting what is happening today. The industrial clusters are requiring infrastructure. So our first duty is to be sure that we can deliver the infrastructural support in these areas. And of course, it will be focused on hydrogen and on CO2. So first of all, in essence, the feedstock for hydrogen. But then at a certain point in time, as already mentioned, I think by Daryl, you will see the hydrogen economy kicking in, and hence you start thinking about security of supply, meeting flexibility concerns, and hence you start interconnecting these clusters. And also that's what we foresee in our plan, is to start interconnecting the industrial clusters to some extent cross-border, if it is making sense, in order to create these, let's say, larger backbones that accommodate to most of the requests that the industry might have. And then when you start moving again further down into the development, you need to further develop the infrastructure as well. And then we start talking about a kind of European-based infrastructure backbone that is then also considering, and perhaps it might happen earlier, the fact that we will need to import to a large extent green molecules, hence the connection with one of the points you referred to as well with Zeebrugge. Today, Zeebrugge is an important import hub for LNG. The Port of Antwerp is an important cluster, so combining the two, you end up with creating a kind of future import hub and export for CO2, perhaps, of all these renewable molecules. So I think there is indeed really the opportunity to build out, based on the strengths, a very strong role for let's say, the Port of Antwerp and Zeebrugge. And so to close on the part of the backbone, once this will be established, you will be able to transport within the clusters, within Belgium, within Europe, and globally, the necessary carbon-free molecules in different forms. It can be liquid, it can be gaseous. I suppose Mr. Zavras will discuss a bit more on the ways to import, but I think it's important that the vision is allowing this possibility to have the imports of these types of decarbonized or carbon-neutral molecules. And I think you also asked what about the regulatory framework? Yeah. And I think it has already been mentioned also by earlier speakers. It's crucial. We're talking about a huge amount of investment that will be required in order to get it kick-started. Hence, you need to provide a kind of visibility to investors about what to expect, because otherwise it won't happen. And infrastructure, I think, in this context is a very important key success factor. And access to this infrastructure in a non-discriminatory way, third-party access is also going to be key. So at least a kind of regulatory framework that is foreseeing in a very clear and transparent way this type of regulatory framework, for me, is a minimum that we should develop.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed, I think that's a crucial issue to have this network up and running with all the financial and legislation issues. So we talked about the clusters, about the network, but for instance, in Belgium, if we made the exercise for this green hydrogen, it was quite easy to see that Belgium is too small to make this green hydrogen. So we are a too small country, and we have to import a lot of hydrogen. And then we studied this with the coalition, and as well Port of Antwerp, as Fluxys, as Exmar were part of this. We had a complete value chain. And then we need to ship our hydrogen carrier from the world, Australia, Middle East, Chile, maybe Houston. Nicola, you are expert on shipping worldwide, LNG, LPG, ammonia. What is your vision and contribution on this possible solution for the future? How do you see this?
Well, first of all, we can say, as Fluxys has said it, Exmar can confirm, transporting hydrogen in one or another form, it's possible. Yeah. We can do it.
Good.
That is going to cost money. We know it's going to cost money. That the transition will create additional opportunities, that's an obvious one. It will create additional opportunities. Let's first look, who is our enemy? The enemy is CO2. So there we have two axes. One, we will capture CO2. And by chance, Exmar, over the last 4 decades, we have an office. Our main offices are in Houston, in Antwerp, and in Singapore. Yeah. These are big CO2 creators, these 3 ports. We definitely believe, if we look at the CO2 question, that easiest and where we should first do the investments are in the capturing of CO2 and then doing something with it, transporting it with pipelines. Fluxys will love it. We prefer to transport them with ships because we are ship owners, and in a certain way we assist each other, but we are different. The pipeline is for certain distances. Shipping is where it is not possible in these shorter distances. We need to go further. It will be shipping. We come back to the hydrogen. Hydrogen as such is a very difficult product to transport because it's at minus 253-ish Celsius. So it's better and it will be more economic to find a carrier for the hydrogen. So we will find other molecules to which we will put the hydrogen, and that can then be ammonia. It's most likely the most economical way of doing it. You can do it with methanol, it's a bit more expensive. Or you can go to synthetic methane. The 3 are possible. And in fact, what is the hydrogen? It's, in a way, it's renewable energy in which we have turned into, or could be electricity. But electricity, the same thing, difficult to transport and nearly impossible to store. Or if you store the electricity, you will always have a cost of getting it out of that storage. And then hydrogen is probably the holy grail. It is probably the cleanest energy source and transportable energy source on this planet. There is no pollution afterwards. Of course, there will be some pollution because we will have to create factories, etc. But I mean, once that flow is going, it's really an ideal fuel. And it's possible. How will this happen? And you have been talking about security of legislation, of permitting, etc. But much more than that, We will have to put in gear finance, investors, by the way, that's nearly the same, and then we will need to have security. So we will need to have financial security. And if we want to go to financial security, we will need to go a kind of worldwide level playing field, or big signatories behind it who are then guaranteeing that this new trade, that this new economy will be sustained. We know it's sustainable, but will we sustain it for a couple of generations? And that is there, and then I'm maybe a little bit pessimistic, or I prefer realistic. We know the politicians worldwide. I'm not referring to the Belgian politics, and I will not trying even to explain that to our Houstonian friends, because it's unexplainable. But I would say the politicians worldwide, we need, and we will need to have a kind of worldwide agreement on how that industry will be set up. And that will be with huge financial security around all of that. Fluxys, which has shareholders, we have shareholders, the ports also have shareholders. If behind that there is not a system where we are all really guaranteed that it will work and will work technically, we will make it work. I have no problem with that. But that financially, it will be sustainable, because we are trying to convert from a fossil heavy industry to both things, and I think both things will go hand in hand, and then especially in these two locations, and it's fantastic that Houston and Antwerp are working together. I think that the carbon capturing and the hydrogen, but it will be hand in hand, it will be parallel paths, and there will be many other cleaner energy sources, cleaner energy modes. But when you're talking to two logistical companies, one more onshore, although they have a connection with the sea because they have their ports, and Fluxys is one of the big pipeline companies of this planet, and they are still expanding because they went away from being a pure Belgian or local player and being more and more an European player and even an international player, because I think they've done recently some investments in South America. And we are, I would say, when you're a ship owner, automatically you're international. Yes, our ships come from time to Antwerp, but our ships go much more to Houston, where we most of the time carry or load some LPG. And when I'm talking about LPG and LNG, these products also will help us to move slowly away from fossil heavy polluting and to the gases which are fossil less polluting. And this will be a transition. Now, politicians often like to put some deadlines. And then they organize enormous conferences and they focus on certain deadlines. I can tell you now already that the deadlines which I put and the ambitions that have been put in Paris, and that I spent by 2030, the carbon emissions have to be dropped to certain percentages. That will not be possible. The industry can do it, but the politics cannot guarantee us to have the framework to do it.
Thanks, Nicolas, for this very clear view on this challenging transition. And I think to summarize this interesting panel, I heard 4 major players of this value chain, because one of the things, if you're talking about hydrogen and CO2, you need to build the complete value chain at once. You cannot start with only production, and you have to put it in one time on the rails. And therefore you need the clusters, you need the pipelines, you need the ships. And I heard that industry is ready to do this. They are really thinking, and the only thing that we need, and the only thing, it's maybe a big thing, but the only thing that we need is a global approach. So it will be hydrogen and CO2 will be global or it will be not. And the second thing is a level playing field, preferably initiated by the politicians to see, yes, this will be the way forward. And of course, it will be much more expensive than you think, and it will take some longer time. But I'm convinced that if the Port of Houston and the Port of Antwerp with these companies are working together on this vision, I can imagine that it can be a leading example in the world. So to summarize, I would like to thank you all and the end of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam.
Thank you.
Aoife Kamen, Brett Perlman, and Daryl Wilson, and thank you very much to our moderator, Adwin Martens. Ladies and gentlemen, we put the focus on Antwerp, and we put the focus on the opportunities for both when it comes to hydrogen and carbon management projects. Now, let's take the leap, transatlantic leap, and let's have a look at Houston. As the energy capital of the world, Houston is the headquarters and the intellectual capital for virtually every segment of the energy industry, including exploration, production, transmission, marketing, supply, and technology. So 25 companies, you have to realize, ladies and gentlemen, that 25 companies out of the list of the Fortune 500 companies, 25 of them call Houston, the energy capital of the world, their home. So what is it that makes Houston so special? Well, there's only one person who can shed a light on this, and that is the president and CEO of the Greater Houston Partnership, and that is Mr. Bob Harvey. Let's have a look at what Bob has to say.
Houston, Texas. A city built on innovation, opportunity, leadership. A city known globally as the energy capital of the world. We create the energy that makes modern living possible. But the world is changing, and humankind faces a dual challenge. Economic opportunity and quality of life are improving around the globe. To support that growth, we will need more energy, now and for decades to come. At the same time, we must reduce carbon emissions and respond to the effects of climate change. Houston is committed to tackling this dual challenge head-on. It is both a responsibility and a great opportunity. We're ready to create energy that's cleaner, more affordable, and even more reliable. Oil and gas companies are driving efficiency improvements. Leading wind, solar, and biofuels companies already operate from Houston. But we need to scale up technologies that run smarter and more efficiently with a reduced carbon footprint. And we must drive innovations like carbon capture and storage technology. No other city in the world is better positioned than Houston to take this dual challenge and turn it into opportunity. The city of innovators and problem solvers focused on the future. Houston, Texas, leading the global energy transition.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, that was amazing. I'm going. Houston, I'm coming over there. The word is out, the genie is out of the bottle. Reduce carbon emissions, tackle the issues head on, scale up technologies, drive innovations. I think this is the perfect fuel for our third and last table discussion. It's about the energy capital of the world, so let's dig deeper. Let's get to know what makes Houston tick, what is so important, and how Houston can help everyone in transforming us and going into a better world. We go live to Houston, where our moderator is present. It's Peter Dumoulin, Honorary Consul of Belgium in Houston. I would like to say, Peter, take it away. The floor is yours.
Thank you. In this next section of the program, we are focusing on Houston as the energy capital of the world and its role and opportunities in the clean tech revolution. To discuss this, I'm very pleased to introduce to you 4 esteemed panel members. Dr. Barbara Berger is Vice President Innovation and President Chevron Venture Technology. In this role, Dr. Berger leads the Chevron Technology Venture strategy, innovation, and access of externally developed technology for integration into Chevron. Dr. Berger chairs Houston Exponential, and she sits on the advisory board of Greentown Houston. Mr. Leo de Bruin, CEO Lummus Technology. The company describes itself as uniquely positioned to develop technology and solutions that will convert plastic waste into feedstock, produce chemicals and clean fuels from biomass, and accelerate the decarbonization of downstream assets. Dr. Jean-Main Sun, Vice President Sustainability at NRG. Dr. Sun leads the company's sustainability strategy, including the target of achieving a net zero carbon footprint by 2050 and advancing sustainability solutions and standards for existing and new customers. And Mr. Rick Burns, Chief Infrastructure Officer for the Port of Houston. Mr. Burns' team support regional commerce and trade by focusing on port planning, construction, asset management, the Houston Chip Channel, freight mobility, environment, and technical analytics. Welcome and a sincere thank you, panel members, for sharing your experience, your wisdom, and knowledge on this very important topic. This session is broadly split into 2 sections. First, we're going to focus on Houston's leadership position and its role in the energy transition. Long known as the capital of the energy of the world, we will discuss how Houston can maintain this title while moving forward to a sustainable future. And secondly, we will explore the handshaking or partnerships needed between the oil and gas companies, power companies, technology companies, and the port to make this energy transition a reality. Dr. Berger, on this first topic, the first question is for you. Within this framework of Houston's leadership in this space, in your company Chevron, what do you see as the role of established oil and gas companies in the energy transition?
So good morning, and thanks for the kind introduction. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to follow on from one comment that was made in the prior panel. Chevron calls Northern California our home as a company, but we have over 8,000 employees, and several of our businesses do call Houston home. So it's very important to us. And if I put my Chevron hat on for the time being, I think, and our peers, and I think about our role in this is, first of all, and hopefully it goes without saying, but we're responsible for supplying much of the energy that is essential for today and into the future. So in all the discussions around the energy transition, let's not forget the role of supplying energy. The energy system's large and complex, and the expectations of all of us around affordability, around reliability, and around an ever cleaner energy system, for all are needed. So, I think we need to put it in that framework. We all understand and expect that the future is lower carbon. So for Chevron, our approach to the energy transition as an incumbent supplier is, first of all, we believe we play a significant and essential role. The absolute first thing we need to do is lower the carbon intensity of our current assets and products. And we have a wide variety projects underway to do just that. And you heard some of the types of things that are underway at the last panel. But the technology that is needed to realize that future expectation that we all agree on requires investment in emerging technologies and business models, that will address these challenges. And so we play a critical role in that, and the company within Chevron that I run plays a leading role in our company, in Houston, and in the ecosystem in terms of supporting, investing, and then helping these companies by leveraging our capabilities to scale and integrate them into this energy system. We're not going to throw away the current energy system. We're going to integrate new pieces to it, new infrastructures, new technologies. We think we have a critical role to play on that. So there's a lot there, and I'm sure we'll talk more in this panel about it, but that should give us enough to get started.
Thank you. Dr. Sun, on your website under sustainability, I read, becoming a voice and an example for change. How is NRG a major player in the energy transition?
Yes, so Peter, thank you very much for the introduction, and very happy to be here as well representing NRG. By way of background, NRG is an integrated power company. We both generate electricity as well as sell electricity and related energy services. And as an energy company, we recognize the critical role that power plays, not only in the lives of our customers, but also in decarbonizing the economy as a whole. And so we've spent the last decade building a very comprehensive sustainability framework and program, and have two primary objectives from an energy transition standpoint. First is decarbonizing our own operations, and second is providing products and services to help our customers meet their sustainability goals. So first, with respect to decarbonizing our own operations, I'd like to just mention a few milestones that we've had over the past decade that have made us a leader in both goal setting and in achievement. So going back to late 2014, we became the first US electricity generator to put actual dates and quantities on decarbonization. And then fast forward to today, as you mentioned in the introduction, we have a net zero by 2050 target and a 50% reduction by 2025 target. We've had that set of targets validated by the Science Based Targets Initiative as 1.5 degree aligned. And we are the first power company in North America to achieve that designation, and one of only 12 power companies globally. So our ambition is definitely high. In terms of progress, we just reported our 2020 emissions, and from 2014 until 2020, we reduced our footprint by 55%, or the equivalent of 35 million metric tons of CO2 equivalent. On the back of those commitments, we also were the first company in North America to issue a sustainability-linked bond late last year. And then with regard to our customers, we serve over 6 million customers in the US and Canada across the residential, commercial, and industrial segments. And we help them achieve their sustainability goals through various products and services like renewable electricity plans, helping them install rooftop solar panels, purchasing an electric vehicle, certified carbon offsets, all sorts of demand response and energy efficiency audits and tools, and sustainability advisory services. So ultimately, we're looking to be part of the solution because, as I said, we see electrification as one of the key elements of the energy transition and having a low carbon future in the economy.
Great. Let's add to the oil and gas perspective and the power company perspective a technology-driven perspective. Mr. De Bruin, how do you see Lummus Technologies' role and opportunities in this energy transition?
Yeah, thank you, Peter, and good morning, everybody. Good afternoon in Europe. Well, obviously, with Houston being the energy capital of the world, and here with the platform of the two of the biggest ports and petrochemical clusters at the Atlantic, I wanted to highlight Lummus has a long history in the Houston area. As you know, we are a global developer of technologies, working with a lot of partners to implement and commercialize these technologies to serve the energy sector. Our R&D center is actually not far from your studio in Pasadena, Texas, where we develop and commercialize some of these technologies. We also have our consulting business where we help our customers based in Houston called Lummus Consultants. And with about 200 or so technology engineers, we day in, day out develop these technologies that are consistent with a lot of the things I just heard mentioned. We set up our Green Circle company that is targeting specifically the energy transition to decarbonize the world, to create circularity. And I did want to give two examples that I think are really showing what Lummus stands for. First of all, we partnered with a company in Texas called New Hope. Together we developed and commercialized the technology to convert waste plastics through chemical recycling back to a feedstock that can be fed into the petrochemical sites. That is commercial, that has been operating for a couple of years, and we're scaling it up. And already there's petrochemical sites that consume the pyrolysis oil that we produce to produce circular plastics. So that's a great example. Another one that I want to highlight is, as you know, methane is a significant contributor to greenhouse effects. And we acquired a technology that is called Siluria to capture that methane and convert it to a more valuable set of products, polyolefins, eventually through the ethylene and propylene production. And so here we capture methane that is a risk and a contributor to greenhouse gas, and actually monetize on it and displace other fossil fuel-derived feedstocks. So there's a lot of activity going on at Lummus, especially recently as we became an independent company July last year. We really, I would say, accelerated our energy transition-related activities. But I do want to highlight that this is something that we cannot do ourselves. We like to think we have a great set of technologies that can drive the technology innovations, but we cannot do it ourselves. And I don't think anybody can really do it alone. So we have a lot of partnerships. From some of them predate the energy transition. For example, I had the opportunity to work together with Dr. Berger back in the 1990s when we were addressing the clean fuels initiatives between Chevron and Lummus. And more recently, you saw the startup announcement of Novi, a biofuels-based lubricant base oil production, which is a fantastic example of what we can do together if we partner with the right mindset. So just very proud that Lummus can play its role in this energy transition and do this in partnership to contribute eventually to things that we all want to achieve together.
What a great transition already into our second topic about partnerships. But I do have a question in the studio here from Mr. Burns about striving for energy transition. In the first panel today, we heard that Antwerp, the Port of Antwerp, in reaching the ambitions that they have around this topic, they're collaborating with others. How do you see this for Houston? Is Houston part of an international port collaboration effort? And how does that look for a partnership between Houston and Antwerp?
Sure. Well, thank you, Peter, and thank you for having me on the panel today. You know, ports are an interesting place. There's a phrase that when you've seen one port, you've seen one port. They're all unique. I think Antwerp and Houston are about as similar as you can find two ports. And the answer is yes, we are part of a collaboration effort. In fact, partnership is one of our 4 strategic goals, along with people, infrastructure, and stewardship of our resources. So how do we partner? We partner with the private petrochemical industry in the ship channel area. There's over 200 private facilities, and we work with them on initiatives and projects ranging from exploring the potential of hydrogen to fuel cell technology, and on the land side, different alternative fuels for the trucks that come in and out of our container terminals. Internationally, we are part of the emerging Global Ports Hydrogen Coalition that is being launched by the International Energy Agency, and you'll hear more about that in about a month. And then in particular with Antwerp, we collaborate. We have a memorandum of understanding for sharing best practices, sharing data, information, and we help each other in terms of relationship management with the private industry that works in our port areas. We help each other with functional areas such as asset management best practices. And then we are starting a discussion around sustainability to understand what works in one port might work in the other port. And on the other side, what was tried, and maybe we've learned some lessons, and so we can go back and make adjustments to our sustainability goals.
Great. Well, let's continue this discussion around partnerships, because the second topic is all around these partnerships and collaboration. And I do have a first question on this for Dr. Sun. Collaboration is a key message at NRG. How do you see connections, relationships, and collaborations needed to make the energy transition real?
Yeah, so I'm glad you're asking about that because we see it as so important. And I'll talk about specifically collaboration outside the company, although obviously we have a lot of collaboration inside the company as well. And I'll talk about the three main ways that we engage with our external stakeholders. And each is necessary in its own right, but the real change comes from the integration and the combination of those three, which is definitely greater than the sum of their parts. So the three are our climate-focused stakeholders, which are our investors, many of our investors, and environmental non-government organizations. The second is groups that we work with to scale various decarbonization pathways. And then the third is the climate tech or clean tech ecosystem. And so if I think about the first, which is our climate-focused stakeholders, we regularly speak with them. Of course, they're continually pushing us to do more and to do it faster, but it is a two-way dialogue, and we share our views on what we think is feasible and economic from a technical perspective, and we all come away with a stronger understanding of what's desired and what it will take to accomplish it. On the second front, we participate in multiple stakeholder groups and consortia working to scale various decarbonization pathways. And we learn a lot from those groups. And there are several in Houston, including groups like Evolve on the electric vehicle front, both Rice University and the University of Houston, as well as the Gulf Coast Carbon Collaborative, which convenes groups on carbon capture and hydrogen and nature-based solutions and low-emission generation technologies. And then lastly, in this three-legged stool, we engage and support with the climate tech ecosystem because we see them as a way of helping us identify technologies and partnerships that will help us both decarbonize our own company as well as provide solutions to our customers to help them decarbonize. And recent examples include the $20 million Carbon X Prize that we co-sponsored with COSIA that just ended and awarded prizes to 2 startups working to decarbonize concrete, as well as organizations in Houston such as the Greentown Labs Houston expansion and the new Rice Cleantech Accelerator.
Well, clearly collaboration in action. Mr. De Bruyn, how do you see Lummus technology licensing strategy foster the link between scale-ups and the petrochemical and energy companies? And follow up on that, what areas of the circular economy and energy transition are ripe for international collaboration in order to bring them to scale?
Yeah, there's a ton of things that come to mind, Peter. But let me start with mentioning that we established Green Circle really to create a platform through which not only we as Lummus can bring our technologies to market that can help the energy transition, but actually use that same platform and our infrastructure for others to bring their technologies to the market, either in partnership with us or otherwise. And I think that platform is a great way to create some sort of what I would call an open sourcing platform that I think is going to help the energy transition more rapidly than conventional approaches. Second thing I wanted to mention is I highlighted the Green Circle technology for waste plastics recycling. So obviously there's a lot of skill issues with waste plastics from the logistical point of view as well as from the conversion point of view. So the logistics of plastics recycling is rather complex and requires some partnering with local government or local infrastructure for waste collection. And then on the back end of it, the production of the products from the waste plastics, so that the oils and the gas that we produce have to flange up with the existing infrastructure. So a lot of effort is put into making sure there's a right fit between what we produce and how that can be absorbed in the existing infrastructure in order to make the investments profitable. And then the last thing I did want to mention is there has been a lot of buzz around bio-based feedstocks for process technologies. Where I see the greatest opportunity personally is for the aviation industry, where obviously planes will not easily be converted to electrified planes, and there is an inventory of fleet that will continue to fly on the jet. So logically, there will be a transition to far more biojets than we see today. We have partnered with ARA to produce biojets, 100% bio-based product, and drop that into the aviation industry as a reliable fuel. And so we do see some other uses of biofeedstocks. One example that I wanted to announce is car tires are made from rubber, as you know, and butadiene is a typical feedstock. So we're producing bio-based butadiene in order to reduce the fossil fuel component of car tires. And so those are just a few examples that we all do in partnership. The last one with a major producer in Europe of those rubbers. And this is the DNA of Lummus. We know we cannot do it all by ourselves. We also know that we don't know it all by ourselves. So we reach out to partners, and we like to think that creating this platform of Green Circle is a great way to move some of these technologies faster to market than otherwise would happen on themselves.
Great, thank you. Dr. Berger, Chevron Ventures has become very active in collaborating and investing. What's the vision behind this for Chevron and the global sustainability issue?
Sure, great question. And, I'll build off of the comments that my other fellow panelists have made around, the need to collaborate, and that no one company or sector or even geography is going to address climate change. So Chevron Technology Ventures was founded 22 years ago. So we've got a long track record of investing in startup companies across a wide range of energy innovation. We're very proud of the fact that over 80% of them, we have found a way to validate their technology in our operations. And over half of them go on to have some commercial arrangement with Chevron. So we believe that's help. But in terms of collaboration, I think the whole venture model is a model of collaboration. It's a volume play. So if you're an investor, you make many investments because you don't know which companies will succeed. And you don't make investments on your own. You make investments as part of a syndicate. So the collaboration with the startup is certainly aided by that collaboration of investors. And we see whether we're investing across the core business or digital technologies or into the energy transition, a wide range of co-investors, some that look fairly similar to who we are. I love the comment about if you've seen one port, you've seen one port. So we invest with some companies that look like us, and we invest with some firms that look so different than us. Their objectives are different. What they're trying to get out of it is different. And it is the ability to work with all those co-investors to, in fact, raise that startup and help bring it to scale. And then as it comes into scale, the collaboration continues, and additional sources of capital come in. Additional companies, incumbent players come in as we're trying to commercialize the technology. And so it really requires a sort of big picture and big tent view to the objectives we have. And the last piece I will add in there is the role that the ecosystem and government play in there. So the ecosystem, Jean May mentioned Rice Clean Accelerator and Greentown at the largest climate tech incubator. Those organizations are critical because they are boots on the ground helping startups in the early days of their existence. So we believe that is a form of investment in the ecosystem, which will pay off for all of us. And on the government perspective, the government has collaborated with us early days on the technology development, the technology creation, but then also and increasingly they understand one of the challenges is the first plants of a kind or in scaling, and we have a number of collaborations with the Department of Energy, for example, on being able to bring some of these hard tech, climate tech solutions to market and to scale. So I'm a middle child in a big family, so I guess I was predisposed to want to collaborate, and this environment certainly requires it and gets the best out of it.
Oh, collaboration is a very consistent message in all of your answers. Mr. Burns, what role can the Port of Houston play to bring new technologies to the next level? And is the port an ideal transformation and transition hub?
Absolutely. Ports are typically at the nexus of multiple supply chains. There are literally, as I said before, hundreds of companies that operate in a port area. And so ports can play a role of a dot connector or idea connector. So we can move from there to a question of what can ports actually do. And the way we look at it, there's really three roles. What can we lead? What can we partner on, and what should we follow from sort of behind the scenes? In terms of what we can lead, just give you a couple of examples. The port has reduced our carbon footprint by 55% over the last 4 years by doing a few things around new technologies. One is we became the first port to have an asset-backed 100% renewable electricity source. And as you know, our cranes operate on electricity. We consume a lot. We've replaced all of our incandescent lights with new technology, LEDs. We've even piloted some autonomous surface water debris sweeping vehicles. So there's things that we can do, but then there's also things that because there are so many companies focused on hydrogen, so many companies focused on alternative fuels, we can help them make the connections to increasing the adoption of those kinds of fuels into, say, the trucking fleet. We don't operate all the trucks, the 6,000 trucks a day that come to the container terminals, but we can certainly make the introductions so that the truck owners see the benefits, and either the hydrogen producers or the electric vehicle manufacturers can build their product base and accelerate that transition.
Great. It's very clear from our discussion today that Houston has an important role and opportunity to play in driving a sustainable future. Also from your comments, I hear that nobody can do this alone. This is not an isolated effort. So in the long run, we can only be successful listening to this panel by building partnerships and collaboration. Panel, I really want to thank you for participating and sharing your insights, wisdom, and knowledge. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to the entire panel. Thank you, Dr. Barbara Berger, Leon de Bruin, Dr. Jean Mason, and Rich Burns. And thank you to our moderator, of course, Peter Dumoulin. Ladies and gentlemen, we're almost at the end of this first day of our two-day event, Houston and Antwerp powering the Cleantech revolution. First of all, I would like to thank all the partners that made this possible, and they're on the screen right now. So thank you very much for your support, and thank you very much for making this event possible. In the meantime, if you have any questions left, just put them in the question area, ladies and gentlemen. We will come back to you as soon as possible. If you have any messages for each other, if you want to exchange numbers or email addresses, go to the chat box and do it there. And then, in the meantime, I will present to you the agenda of day 2. Tomorrow, we start at 8 a.m. Houston time, and that's 3 p.m. Antwerp time. And this will be a very, very inspiring day. We're going to talk about financing and funding clean tech projects. We're going to talk about next-gen district, startups, and joint venture opportunities in Flanders and in Houston. And we're going to talk about sustainable incubators. You can still register. Just click on the link events.portofantwerp.com/cleantech. Let me do that again. events.portofantwerp.com/cleantech. There you go. So click on the link, and then you will be present tomorrow for the second day. It will be huge, will be amazing. Let me also remind you of another amazing event that is coming our way, and that is the World Ports Conference 2021, organized by the IAPH, the International Association of Ports and Harbors, and hosted by the Port of Antwerp. It will take place from the 21st until the 25th of June 2021. And themes are business innovation, data collaboration, risk and resilience, and climate and energy. Also, here you can click on the button, register now, and then you will be there. It's a virtual event, so wherever you are, you can log in. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is all from me for now. We meet each other again tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Houston time, 3 p.m. Antwerp time. So, see you then. Have a nice day, have a nice evening, have a nice night, and see you tomorrow. Ciao, ciao.